Alright guys, this is my second attempt at this. I had a little problem getting started the first time. Okay, so here's the deal. Trump campaign 2016 and the correlation of Brexit. Now, Trump made a brilliant move yesterday by bringing Nigel Farage over from the United Kingdom to speak on his behalf at one of his rallies. This was great. Great move by Donald Trump. I love it, right? But here's the thing, all right? There are really no similarities between Brexit and between the Donald Trump campaign. And I'm going to lay out the reasons why during this live event here. Okay, number one, here's the thing about Brexit, okay? Brexit was a completely binary referendum. For Brexit, people had the choice either for the United Kingdom to remain in the European Union or to leave the European Union. So it's the choice between being governed by the big banks and powerful elites in Brussels and from all over Europe, unelected people from each country, being sent up to the EU, raining down all types of bureaucracy. That choice versus trying to handle things at home, which, again, tyrants in one house, tyrants in another. Yeah, I completely get that. The thing is, I guess you take a chance on self-governance. That's what the United States did when they kicked out the British. Some people might argue with me that point. That's arguable. But anyway, so the for vote obviously won. And let's take a look at some of the numbers here. And the case that I'm going to make here is that this had to do with voter turnout. And why is that? All right. 71% of the people in the United Kingdom turned out to vote for this, for or against. Obviously, the measure, we know from recent history, it won 52% to 48%. Okay. 71% voter turnout. We've never had that in the United States that I'm aware of. Now, let's look back to the last two elections. Voter turnout for the two elections that Barack Obama was involved in. 2008, 62.3% of eligible voters turned out to vote McCain or Obama. Now, let's not forget, we were told that Obama is going to be this disaster, or from the Obama side, McCain's going to be this disaster, the whole world's going to end, no matter which one of them gets elected. I mean, depending on who you're listening to. Which is interesting, too, because Trump, so Clinton supporters today are saying, oh man, we can't let Trump get in, he's so scary. Yeah, you're doing exactly the same thing that people said the other way, and you called them crazy, right? So, oh, we got to vote for McCain or Obama's going to get in, it's going to be the worst thing in the world. You guys thought they were all crazy and made fun of them and everything. Now you're doing the same thing. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. All right, so here's the thing. 2012, we get a drop in voter turnout. This is the second time we have to avoid Barack Obama, who's going to be the worst president ever. Okay, we can have him for 4 years, or we can have him for 8 years. Well, as it turns out, a whole bunch of people stayed home. 57.5% of the voting, eligible voters turned out to participate in the election. Now, I've heard conservatives say that, 5 million conservatives stayed home and they could have swung the election. Okay, as it turns out, the non-voting portion of that number is 93 million people. Okay, so you're 5 million conservatives that could have swung the election in favor of Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, the most uninteresting person ever to grace a presidential election. Uninspiring, boring. Spent every single debate saying, well, I agree with the president. Well, I agree with the president on this one. Okay. Those 5 million people, had they turned out, but if the other 93 million or the other 87 million people had also turned out, they honestly would have determined the entire thing, however they voted. Okay, so anyway, voter turnout. Are we going to have high numbers of voter turnout? In this election, I'm going to predict no. Why? Because this is not a binary type referendum like the Trump supporters are trying to say it is. Okay? So you guys are trying to tell us that, you know, in this. Nope, I didn't realize I got the audio there. Whoever wins, Trump versus Clinton, whichever side you're on, oh, it's going to be epic. It's going to be this, bloodbath. The whole country's going to end. Okay, that's the boy who cried wolf, and we hear this every single year. You got to take the lesser of two evils, and can't vote for somebody else. You're throwing your vote away. You have to choose these people. Okay, so what I want to point out with this is that this is going to be a historic election, but in my opinion, the reason it's going to be historic is because people just simply don't care. I mean, they see this as a horrible choice. If you're only looking at the two parties, we have Gary Johnson running as well. He's saying some things that maybe people don't like or whatever. I get it, but if it's only Clinton or Trump, a lot of people are going to stay home. Absolutely guarantee it. You think I'm wrong? The last election proves it. Okay, now let's go through. Not talking about voter turnout because I don't have the voter turnout figures. Let's talk about a few elections that support the idea that this is the boy who cried wolf. Let's go back to 1932, right? FDR versus Hoover. Okay, FDR ran on a platform of basically undoing everything that Hoover did. And long story short, Great Depression hit, market crashes in 1929, first year of Hoover's administration. And what does he do? He steps into the market, doing all kinds of unconstitutional things, price controls, collaborating with businesses, creating these cartels, doing all kinds of stuff like that, right? Expansion of government programs, public works, all this stuff that John Maynard Keynes would just love, right? I believe it might be Sir John Maynard Keynes. I'm not positive. Okay, so FDR gets elected on the platform of, I'm going to undo everything he did. We're going to go back to the market, and we're not going to do all these big government programs and everything, and we're going to get you out of the Depression. What happens? He wins the election and exacerbates the Depression in a way that I don't think Hoover could have ever dreamed of, and just makes everything that Hoover started worse. Okay. In my opinion, that right there, that's lesson number one, that voting for the president based on what they said before or what they promised and all that kind of stuff is a losing proposition, right? You can't believe what he says. Okay, let's go to 1968. Richard Nixon. Some people would say he sabotaged peace talks in Vietnam in order to run on an anti-war platform and also run against sort of the countercultural element with the hippies and stuff like that. I'm not really sure about all that stuff. If he did sabotage the war, that's really damning because the two bloodiest years of the war, I believe, were 68 and 69, and so that would be, if he sabotaged peace talks, that's really bad. Okay, so it's him versus Hubert Humphrey. Okay, of course Nixon wins it. What do we get from Nixon? Return to republicanism. No, we get the war on drugs, more price controls, stagflation of the 70s due to his interference in the marketplace, as well as Fed policy. Okay, runaway inflation, runaway, everything. Economy is just going to the tank. It's terrible, right? Okay, well, that's your reward for swinging the presidency back away from the Democrats. Now, let's go to a more recent election, 2000. You have, of course, George W. Bush versus Man Bear Pig. I love Man Bear Pig. Okay. Man Bear Pig doesn't win, of course. George W. Bush does. What did George W. Bush run on? Now, this wasn't like a referendum. This wasn't like a major turnout or people were having an outcry over the Clinton years or anything like that, to my recollection of that election. But Bush ran on small government, free market, return to conservatism, all of those types of things. Doing away with the expansionary Clinton policies and all that stuff. Okay, and he wins the election. Some might say he stole it, whatever. Anyway, he's the next president. What do we get? Expansion of government, vastly expanding spending, two wars that arguably are still going on today. He took office. He started the first one in 2002, the longest running war in American history, in Afghanistan. We're spending billions of dollars chasing around the same 25,000 people that are fighting in freaking sandals, and the most powerful military in the world. We can't end this. To top it off, we're paying for Afghan infrastructure, and we're right now. Obama had signed an agreement several years ago. It was in 2012 to directly fund the police and military in Afghanistan. Okay, Bush started it. Obama made it worse. All right. 2008, again. We're told it's the end of the world. It's clearly not. All right. Now let's look at some of the arguments for Trump. And the only one argument that I keep seeing trotted out is the argument that Trump's SCOTUS nominees are going to be way better than Clinton's. There might be 4 or 5 Supreme Court justices that leave the bench during the term of the next president, particularly if that's an 8-year presidency. Let's hope it's not. So that person is going to stack the Supreme Court, and then everything that we fought for and everything's going to be bad. Basically, it's going to go the other way. All right. I'm not convinced that Trump is going to give us better Supreme Court nominees than Clinton, necessarily. But we're on shaky ground there. I'm also not convinced that the Supreme Court nominees from a, quote, conservative are better than a, quote, liberal. I mean, we have plenty of damage that's been done by the Supreme Court nominees who have come out of the Reagan era and also the Bush era. How about John Roberts? Come on, man, this guy's been a disaster. And this is our, Republican that everybody misses Bush, right? Well, I don't miss him, and I wish John Roberts would leave. I mean, the guy's terrible. All right, so I'm not convinced by the Supreme Court thing. People are trying to go, this is going to last for generations. First of all, the problem is, why does the Supreme Court have the kind of power that it's lasting for generations? Maybe the issue is there. Maybe the separation of powers isn't working so hot. All right. Anyway, the last thing I'm going to end on this is that the appearance of Nigel Farage. He gave a great speech. I love that speech he gave. It was really compelling. It was energetic. I love everything the guy has to say. It was a brilliant move for Trump to bring Nigel Farage in. Love Nigel Farage. But here's the thing. Trump supporters are the ones that are getting fired up by this. They're going, oh man, we're just like Brexit. The polls are misrepresenting us. The powerful elites are trying to hold us down. The media is against us. Everybody's counting us out. But every step of the way, we've won. And they're getting all excited about it. Okay, that's true. That, the media and the pollsters and everything, they work that way. Trust me, as a libertarian, no love for any of those people. The fact is, you're going to have to convince more people to side with Trump. More people than side with him now. And I just don't think that's going to happen. The way this election is going, people that are supporting one side or the other are not necessarily supporting that person for the most part. They just hate the other person. So you're going to have to convince them not that your person's good, but that they shouldn't hate them more than they hate the other person. That's where you're going to run into your issue. I don't think it's going to happen. I think in this election, both Clinton and Trump are too polarizing. There's not going to be a swing side to side. I really don't think there are people out there right now that are undecided between these two figures. I mean, have you run into anybody that's undecided? I certainly haven't. So, I mean, good luck with that. All I'm going to say is, you guys have got your hopes up and everything. It's just not. I just don't see it happening. I mean, and honestly, I don't see where it matters either. So, at any rate, that's the long and short of it. Let me check the chat to see how we're doing on the chat. All right, we don't have anything going on in the chat. Hey, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We go live every now and then to discuss these type of issues. Hey, man, if you don't agree with me, leave a comment as to why. But, yeah, Brexit, binary referendum, Trump versus Clinton. turning everybody off. We're going to have low voter turnout. Nobody's undecided. Nobody's, going to be convinced not to hate this candidate or the other. And honestly, most of the arguments in favor of Donald Trump, I don't find them compelling at all. All right, guys, signing off. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.